Welcome to a special water-themed edition of Iowa Outdoors,
where we look back at some of the most amazing features from our rich aquatic archives.
Coming up on this episode of Iowa Outdoors, we go airborne at Rathbun Lake alongside a trio of kiteboarding Iowans. We head to Okoboji for an event where classic boats wow lake lovers each summer. We see how a DNR river project helped revitalize the iconic landmarks of Madison County. Finally, we go deep with a photographer who loves to capture the seafloor of Lake Okoboji. We'll have all that and more.
So sit tight. Iowa Outdoors is about to begin.
Funding for Iowa Outdoors is provided by the Claude P. Small, Catherine Small Cousins, and William Carl Cousins Fund at the Lincoln Way Community Foundation in Clinton County to support nature programming on Iowa Public Television.
Many of Iowa's natural wonders you'll find on IPTV can be found in Iowa Outdoors magazine, the Iowa DNR's premier resource for conservation, education, and recreation activities. Subscription information can be found online at iowadnr.gov.
Iowa Communications Network, ICN's Broadband Matters campaign, advocates for access to high-speed broadband in all corners of Iowa for education, public safety, healthcare, government, and economic development. Information is available at broadbandmatters.com.
Tiny openings around your house can let in a lot of cold air. This includes areas where you see light coming in, especially around windows, doors, and outlets. With the heating season approaching, Alliant Energy encourages you to weatherize now to make your home more energy efficient.
Hi, I'm Kelly Kramer.
And I'm Scott Sipker. Welcome to Northwest Iowa
and Oak Grove State Park on the Big Sioux River on Iowa Outdoors. We'll start with a popular adventure sport some Iowans have been perfecting for decades.
Let's go airborne on our state's largest lake, where a stiff breeze can be a big asset on or above the water.
You look at the sport and you think, well, that looks like fun and interesting. But then when you actually are on the board with the kite and you're part of the whole thing, it's a thrill. You feel it running through your body.
Combine water skiing with kite flying, and you have the sport of kiteboarding. Since 2001, the IKO, or International Kiteboarding Organization, has certified over 410,000 kiteboarders worldwide, with over 40,000 new kiteboarders certified each year. With Iowa being ranked as the 10th windiest state, you would expect to see a lot of participation in the sport. But it turns out that the best conditions for kiteboarding don't usually occur during warm summer days.
Well, it's kind of gusty conditions right now. It's a meter's saying kind of 15 to 17, 15 to 20. And it's supposed to be gusting, between 30 and 45. So it's a little difficult conditions because there's such a range in the wind.
The best conditions for kiteboarding in Iowa are in the spring and fall, when air and water temperatures demand the use of wet or dry suits. But it's also when the winds are blowing their hardest.
Big winds are great. We like more wind, the better. We would like it to be a little steadier than today. This isn't ideal because there's such a range. So you really have to manage your kite well in those conditions because you can just get lofted up in the air and blown all the way to Centerville.
Historians believe that the Chinese were building kites over 3,000 years ago, with the first written account of kite flying documenting how during a war a Chinese general flew a kite over a city to measure how far he would need to tunnel in order to be past enemy defenses. The most famous kite flyer would have to be Benjamin Franklin, who flew a kite in 1752 during a thunderstorm to prove lightning was electricity. Since he managed to avoid electrocution, Franklin also proved that he was very lucky. And in the 1800s, in an effort to avoid the horse tax and move from horsepower to kite power, George Pocock used large kites to propel boats and carts. It took, however, nearly a century and a half for kites to be paired with surfboards, thus creating a new extreme sport.
It's very addictive. It's such a sensation. It's not exactly flying, but it feels like you're almost, and then when you do the jump and you're floating up there and then float back down, it's
exhilarating.
Really amazing.
It's exhilarating.
There's the control of the kite, there's watching the wind, there's the board on your feet and how the water is and what the wave conditions are. So there's a lot going on, so your mind is involved in it, and also you get a huge adrenaline hit from the excitement of it all.
It's the wind and the water and you, birds flying by, and it's an amazing experience. There's no noise in terms of a motor or anything like that, so it's a very great experience in terms of being out in nature too.
Because kiteboarding is an extreme sport, injuries and even fatalities occur.
Just like you would never jump out of a plane with a parachute without knowing what you're doing, kiteboarding you really need instructions. It can be a very safe sport if you know what you're doing, so get lessons from a qualified instructor. Don't try it on your own unless you're with someone who really knows what they're doing.
You know, we've emphasized the importance of lessons and safety, but it isn't actually that hard a sport to learn. Once you get the essential elements of it down, the progress is very quick. It's essential to get the safety elements and the basic part of skill of flying the kite and riding the board down, but once you've got that, you can make very quick progress.
Because the best winds for kiteboarding occur in Iowa when air and water temperatures keep most people off the water, Frank, Carl, and Peter often have the lake to themselves. They aren't selfish, however, and would like to see more people in Iowa take part in the sport they love.
We always have Rathbun pretty much to ourselves from, Labor Day to Memorial Day. There's nobody here. So we get to see all the wildlife, the geese and the Iowa pelicans. It's really beautiful being out here.
Yeah, this is 11,500 acres of water, give or take. And here we are. There's three of us. That's the extent of it.
You're seeing there's room for some more. There's a little bit of room. Yeah, we're not overcrowded yet. We can take a few.
Two.
Yeah, right. After that, it's too crowded.
As Iowa's busy summer lake season gets underway, you're likely to see hundreds of boats crisscrossing popular water destinations. But in Okoboji, a special festival seeks to slow down the throttle with a classic boat rendezvous.
Each July, owners bring their prized watercraft to the Iowa Great Lakes to show off their eye-catching wooden boats and add a bit of fun and intrigue to cruising the lake. Lines of people walk the docks at Arnold's Park on West Lake Okoboji, their eyes wide with wonder at the dozens of classic boats on display. Local residents, vacationers, and boat owners from across the country come here in late July every year to see the kinds of boats you won't usually find on other Iowa lakes or rivers.
And we've had some of the most unique, some of the most beautiful boats in the whole world, the whole United States certainly, come to our show during one year or another.
This is to boat enthusiasts what a classic car show is to someone who loves a '57 Chevy. It's an opportunity to see rare makes and models and the type of craftsmanship and materials that aren't present in the speedboats manufactured today. The annual rendezvous is hosted by the Jerry Deere Cup Iowa Great Lakes chapter of the Antique and Classic Boat Society. Preservationists formed the society to help save wooden boats from the burn pile, which was happening as fiberglass became more popular in the 1970s.
When these boats show up on the docks, everybody has a smile because everybody's got a memory, everybody's got a story. So somebody will walk up and they might be older and they'll say, I remember riding with my husband in a boat like this back in 19 whatever. Someone else will walk up and say, I learned to ski behind this kind of a boat. Another one will walk up and say, my grandfather had a boat like this. I constantly refer to it, they are memory makers. And they make people feel good.
The Rendezvous welcomes boats of all varieties: wood, fiberglass, aluminum, or steel. Many on display at this show are wooden boats, the fine detail and character of each vessel as interesting as its history.
Every boat here has a great story.
One of the crowd favorites each year is the William Sykes, a steamboat replica of the African Queen. Dr. Bill Ansbach and his kids looked for a boat to restore and couldn't find one, so they built their own.
A steam engine in a boat, there's nothing that smells like it. It's just something about the oil and the steam. It's beautiful. So I'm 78 now, and every time I smell this engine, I think I'm 4, you know? And I'm going on the Queen over to the park, and so I really like it.
Another regular on the blue waters of Okoboji is this 1967 Ariston Riva. Royce Humphreys has loved wooden boats since he was a young child, and now he owns several of them.
Just love the sounds, the way they drive, the childhood memories. So they're just a lot of fun. I like them better than any new boat you can purchase today.
The Riva is like a luxury sedan. It has power, but it's also an incredibly smooth ride. Between the wooden body and the way it's designed, it cuts through the water like a hot knife through butter. Owning a boat like this turns heads, and it's helped make Royce friends all across the country. But he and many others have been able to enjoy this hobby in part because of Steve Deercup, the quiet but extremely talented owner of Blue Water Restoration just a few miles down the road in Milford.
I couldn't have the boats if it weren't for Steven. I'll put his work up against anybody in the world. I mean, literally. I mean, his craftsmanship and attention to detail and knowledge and ability to find critical parts that keep these boats going.
You got to have an eye for it.
Full restorations can require thousands of hours of work for Steve and take as long as 2 years or more to finish. He's usually working on a few boats at a time.
This is bat and stick, and that's how you tell if your frames are faired in before the planking's going to go into place.
He studies old pictures and advertisements to try to get the boats as close to authentic as possible.
To see the work completed, everything's correct, right, and nice looking. Yeah, it's an achievement. That way the public's got an idea that this stuff's still out there, and younger generation can see it too.
Back at the annual rendezvous, the day ends with all the boats making the trek from West Lake Okoboji over to East Lake Okoboji and back. A fireboat leads the parade of classic watercraft and salutes each one with a stream of water.
They evoke a lot of happiness when you're out on the water. People wave, everybody's like, oh, how cool is that, So you don't see them every day.
And that's 90% of why we all do it, is that people definitely appreciate this. And you see all ages down here, everybody's smiling, and that's all it takes for a wood boat owner to bring their boat back the next year.
It's a nod to history. Flags waving, people relaxing and enjoying the Iowa outdoors, and being out on the open water with these beautiful old boats where they belong.
Recreation on Iowa's lakes contributes millions of dollars to local economies every year. But have you ever wondered what lies below the surface of Iowa's Great Lakes? This curiosity led Lloyd Cunningham, a photographer, to don his scuba gear and explore the underwater treasures of Lake Okoboji.
I have a real passion for underwater photography, and I have a real love of the Iowa Great Lakes and West Lake Okoboji. I've dived in the Clearwater Springs in Florida, I've dived in the Keys, the Caribbean, and even in the Baja Peninsula, but this is my favorite place to dive.
Weeks before a summertime rush of visitors flood the cool waters of West Lake Okoboji, Lloyd Cunningham is already here. Donning a wetsuit with scuba gear in hand, Lloyd prepares for an icy dip in 40-degree water.
I didn't gain any weight this winter. It just got softer. It's a challenge. This is not recreational diving to dive in 40-degree water. And dives are generally short. I typically dive in this cold water not more than once a day, and a dive of not more than about 35 minutes because you will chill all the way to the core.
This excursion is much more than recreation. It's a trip back in time. From a 1940s ice truck to 100-year-old structures, Cunningham opens an underwater gateway for the rest of us.
The bottom of the lake is a time capsule, in my view, of collectibles, of interesting parts of the lake's history and past. That's, I think, the major draw of the lake for me. Every dive in West Lake Okoboji is a treasure hunt.
Lloyd, a retired newspaper photographer for the Argus Leader in Sioux Falls, spent his weekdays documenting fires, accidents, and Friday night football. He spent his free time here at West Lake Okoboji. Much to the surprise of many longtime Iowans, this glacial water body is a hidden scuba diving gem.
The lake is 134, 138 feet deep, depending upon where you actually drop your depth finder. And that depth lends itself to clear water. Anything that falls into the lake, sediment, silts, and sands that you'd see in Midwest lakes, all settles through that top layer of water down to the bottom, leaving the top very, very clear.
Okoboji was formed by the Wisconsin Glacier more than 100,000 years ago. One of only 3 blue water lakes in the entire world, visibility can extend 40 feet during peak periods. However, that window is only briefly open. The spring days of mid-May present the best opportunity to catch a glimpse of the lake bottom. We journeyed alongside Lloyd from the water's edge to a structure brimming with fish.
There's a tower in the bottom of the lake. This was a water intake built by the city of Milford in about 1917. The tower is roughly 15 feet tall. It's a crib full of stone at the bottom, and it holds upright an 8-inch iron pipe. It was built on the ice and then lowered to the bottom in 30 feet of water. That tower provided water for drinking water and fire protection water for the town of Milford until about 1945. It's been replaced by other intakes now, but it's still a haven for panfish and a hunting ground for walleye and pike.
Lloyd has clocked more than 350 dives in Okoboji, and while his first-hand accounts keep him coming back, it is underwater photography that has captivated residents and tourists alike.
It was amazing to me the first time I was on the bottom of this lake, I recognized that I could actually make pictures here. Making a good underwater photograph is a balance of working with the water, working with the light, working with the visibility that you have, and taking all those into account as you approach the dive and make the photograph.
One of his signature photos is a 1940s-era ice truck resting for more than 50 years below the surface, but it requires expert navigation to find. Motoring out to the center of West Lake, Lloyd found his spot in a matter of minutes.
On the bottom of West Lake Okoboji is something called the ice truck. In 1948, it slipped off the ice and sank into 22 feet of water in the middle of Smith's Bay. When I began diving in 1992, I'd heard that the truck was out there, but I could not find anybody who had actually seen it, and most divers had assumed it had rusted away. It has become the most popular dive site, I think, on West Lake Okoboji now.
Much of the floating matter in these images was stirred up by our divers. The swirling sediment can create a dark and hazy image. It's just one of the reasons underwater photography requires skill and patience.
Good diving practice is that you always dive with a buddy, but when you are diving in water with the bottom as soft as this bottom that can easily be stirred up by a random or clumsy kick of a fin, you lose the visibility that you're after when you're trying to make good quality underwater images. So in that case, I mostly dive alone.
The ice truck, underwater shipwrecks, fish sanctuaries. These are images that have captivated Lloyd during his dives. But so have the stories behind them. Lloyd says his photographs have drawn the attention of local historians, always curious if he has come across a relic from decades ago.
They'll have seen a boat sink from their lakeside cabin, and they want to know if I know the details, or they'll ask me what I've seen at the bottom of the lake. It seems to generate a lot of discussion about what's down there, and I guess that's all part of the fun. Sometimes I discover things that I didn't know were there. Every dive in West Lake Okoboji is a treasure hunt, because you never know what kind of an artifact you may recover when you dive in this beautiful lake.
In south central Iowa, a popular water trail intersects a series of historic landmarks. The Middle River not only flows right under Madison County's covered bridges, but it's also the perfect way for you to experience the Iowa landmarks.
Besides hosting some of Iowa's best-known tourist destinations, the Middle River is home to one of the best water trails for paddlers.
The mental image is going down I-80 or up I-35, and it's, cornfield, beans, but you get off the beaten path into the water trails, and there's some fantastic opportunities in Iowa.
For more than 120 years, the bridges of Madison County have stood as a gateway to a different era, a touchstone to a period when farm to market roads were not only multiplying, but thriving. And for more than a century, visitors have flocked to the red-splashed wooden symbols of rural America. But rarely have they focused on what runs underneath. The reason the bridge exists in the first place, the winding Middle River of Madison County.
It's really nice to have these beautiful landmarks, these historic covered bridges right here over the river, because it does bring attention to the river. People come in to see the covered bridges. They don't realize there's a beautiful stream running right under Roseman Covered Bridge.
This is a water trail. It's an idyllic, melancholy little trail. Great scenery, great bluffs. You'd be surprising the amount of wildlife you see on the water when you get on it, because you approach wildlife in a different manner. They are not really accustomed to things on the river, and you're coming at them relatively quiet.
A network of supporters have teamed with the Iowa DNR Water Trail staff to cultivate this stream. Officials maintain its meandering path and promote this corner of Madison County as a paddling destination.
The Water Trails program has been absolutely huge. It's helped in so many ways. It's drawn people to rivers that they would have never have thought about paddling. People knowing that there are water trails now in the state, now they want to know how to paddle. They want to go out and buy kayaks. And they do a great job on this water trail by keeping their accesses clean and keeping log jams cut out. If they need help, they know that we're a partner. Because every water trail is state designated, and that gives you certain resources to use, like money grants and things like that. So we just have a really good working relationship with them, as we do with other counties and other water trails across the state.
Iowa-centric paddlers have long flocked to the streams in our state's northeast corner, turning a blind eye to a scenic destination less than an hour from Des Moines.
The Middle River is just kind of this surprising little river close to Des Moines, through the timber and the rolling southern Iowa drift, plains, and not many people know about it other than, the bridges are here.
Mike Kylan has reported on outdoor experiences across the state as a writer for the Des Moines Register, and he's found a hidden gem tucked underneath the nearby covered bridges.
That's the beauty of our state. We've got 70,000 plus miles of navigable streams. You can be anywhere and be on that trail and find a little slice of beauty. And all the wildlife immediately goes to that, because, let's face it, there's just a lot of row crops around it. So you're going to see, I see more here than sometimes when I go up the Boundary Waters or on Superior, or just because the wildlife is congregated here.
But navigation on this water trail is not on autopilot. After years of planning, the Iowa DNR Water Trails team hands over much of the maintenance of the trail to county conservation officials. The county is tasked with regular efforts such as tree removal and other blockages that can jam up the free flow of paddlers down the Middle River. The river itself mixes peaceful passages with limestone riverbanks, alongside narrow strainers and rockier passages that may require a brief portage. After spring rains or the occasional high water of mid-fall, the Middle River is the perfect place to spot wildlife and join your fellow paddlers for an adventure close to home.
Now, there's so many people paddling that you can come down here and almost see somebody paddling every day, including every day of the week, which is great for the economy. It's great for Madison County. It's great for tourism, and it's wonderful for the river because it actually gets noticed.
On a fall afternoon, the paddle from Roseman Bridge to nearby Pamel State Park was nearly 4 hours of gently meandering Iowa stream with a modest group of paddlers. The next time you plan to take in the covered bridges of Madison County, equip yourself with a canoe or kayak and be ready to explore more of Iowa's outdoors.
That wraps up this special water-themed edition of Iowa Outdoors. We encourage you to get outside and enjoy state parks like Oak Grove State Park here on the Big Sioux River. If you're planning any water recreation or outdoor travel, check out our extensive video archive of adventures from across Iowa at iptv.org/Iowa Outdoors.
Our 6th season of Iowa Outdoors will continue with monthly installments through the fall with stories from every corner of our state. We'll leave you now with another look of Iowans enjoying the waterways and lakes of our fair state.
Funding for Iowa Outdoors is provided by the Claude P. Small, Catherine Small Cousins, and William Carl Cousins Fund at the Lincoln Way Community Foundation in Clinton County to support nature programming on Iowa Public Television.
Many of Iowa's natural wonders you'll find on IPTV can be found in Iowa Outdoors magazine, the Iowa DNR's premier resource for conservation, education, and recreation activities. Subscription information can be found online at iowadnr.gov.
Iowa Communications Network, ICN's Broadband Matters campaign, advocates for access to high-speed broadband in all corners of Iowa for education, public safety, healthcare, government, and economic development. Information is available at broadbandmatters.com.
Tiny openings around your house can let in a lot of cold air. This includes areas where you see light coming in, especially around windows, doors, and outlets. With the heating season approaching, Alliant Energy encourages you to weatherize now to make your home more energy efficient.